Welcome, everyone. This is Recovery Dharma. My name is Julia. I'm one of the facilitators in the Spokane Sangha. And today I'd like to share with you an intention. And normally I read the sentiments of metta that I've painted, but today I'd like to share with you a sample of the prayer flags that we have created here at Soul Center. And actually, they were made by a third generation silk screening family in Nepal. And they represent the Four Noble Truths as reimagined by me. So the first noble truth is there is discomfort. The second noble truth is there are conditions that create the discomfort in our life as much as there are conditions that create the ease and joy in our lives. The point is, there are conditions that define the experiences of our lives. This is the Soul Center logo. The third noble truth is when we understand the causes and conditions within our lives, we begin to experience harmony. And of course, the fourth noble truth is this is a practice. And when we really bring forward the reality of that, this is a practice. What we do, and certainly what I have done, is I create space for myself to flub it up, to get it wrong, and to allow that faultiness, to allow my missteps to become more fodder for my growth and my understanding. And so everything becomes important, including the way I fumble. And so that is what makes this such a profound practice. So come into these noble truths and allow them to settle somewhere in the mind and the body. And join me by taking a deep breath as a collective soul here today, breathing in and breathing out. For the month of September in the Spokane Sangha, we have been exploring the psychological perspective of qualities of negative habit energy, otherwise known as addiction. There are many common qualities defining a person that is really kind of stuck in the cycles and patterns of repetitious behaviors. There are at least 16. There are probably more, but this month we're only talking about 4. And we've spent a week exploring each of these qualities. And with those qualities, we have been also talking about a mindfulness practice of a way of supporting and healing and shifting ourselves away from these patterns. This week, we have brought forward the quality of self regulation that often accompanies negative habit energy, specifically, an inability to self regulate. Self regulation, in psychological terms, simply means one's capacity to sit with emotions, to stem impulsivity, to have a degree of wonder about one's behaviors, thoughts, stories. And to be able, with that understanding, to be able to pause and gain access to a little bit of insight. So rather than going from one reaction to the next reaction to the next reaction in very habituated, familiar ways, Self-regulation is all about, whoa, wait a second. What's really going on here? Can I look at my thoughts? Can I look at my mood? Can I look at my mind? Can I look at my body? Can I see what are the conditions external to me that are stirring up all of this internal reactivity that is really driving my engagement with my life, with my experiences, with the situations in ways that aren't particularly beneficial to me or others? That is healthy self regulation, that ability to do that. Now, this is a Buddhist inspired path. And so, what I wanted to do was take this well known psychological perspective and give it a spiritual voice. When we learn to self regulate, what we're learning to do is cultivate presence. And I really love that language. To self regulate my body, my mind, my heart, my spirit is to cultivate presence, presence to myself, presence to the conditions of my life, and by extension, presence to others, their internal landscapes, the conditions of their lives. And I get to determine the quality of my presence. That's the powerful part of this practice. Really, that's the empowerment here is I get to qualify and quantify my presence. Beautiful. And it begins with a question. What kind of presence am I offering myself? And I'll tell you right now, what meditation does, whether it's for 10 seconds, 10 minutes, or an hour, what meditation does is it gives us this present time awareness to slow down, to pause, to look deeply. It begins to suspend the momentum of that habit energy. And in the place of that suspension, clarity can emerge or something new. The dust will settle. Maybe the chaos is still swirling, but I'm not swirling in it. Rather than being a victim to it or swept away by it, because I am cultivating present time awareness, I become its observer and its witness. I become my own observer and my own witness rather than a product of the whimsy of the conditions of my life. For me, the most reliable way to access presence, to cultivate presence, is to engage the four foundations of mindfulness. For our practice today, I'm just going to very briefly review them. The four foundations are well known, they're well documented. I highly recommend you read up on them. Thich Nhat Hanh and Plum Village does a wonderful, wonderful job. There's all kinds of YouTube videos about this particular practice. So I would like to share with you simply how the four foundations come alive in me and how I quickly kind of scan through them. So let's say I am going about my day. Actually, I'm going to give you a perfect real-time experience. I'm going to go to Costco later today. And Costco shopping with me is a delightful experience. I'm a Tasmanian devil in Costco. I am in fourth gear and I practically run pushing my cart because I want to get in there and out of there as quickly as possible. So if you're going to shop Costco with me, put your running shoes on and keep up. But man, there's always lines and there's always people. Oh, so I have to practice presence because some of the presence in Costco and in this mix of humanity, so much of what I navigate through is hostile and dry and prickly. And I want my presence at all times to be friendly, soft, squishy, open, joyful. So, in order for me to navigate the landscape of Costco with all of its foggy areas of dryness and prickliness and aggression and cluelessness, I have to practice. And the place where I begin is my body. And even though I'm hurried, I'm focused and I'm mindful. I have a tendency and a propensity to carry the weight of the world on my shoulders. So when I'm in a stressful place or when I'm in a challenging environment, my full attention goes to my shoulders and my neck. And I keep my arms intentionally relaxed. On my face, I make every effort to concentrate my attention and my awareness on the muscles in my cheeks and around my mouth. And I try to keep my resting bitch face to an absolute minimum because I have a powerhouse RBF. So my kids tell me when I'm concentrated, oh man. So I have to make this effort to relax my cheeks and smile. And that really helps me maintain a lifted heart as I'm moving quickly through this store. So when you're working with the foundation of the body, ask your body where it's holding stress and see if you can bring some ease to that part of your body. The second foundation is one's mood and emotions. When I'm in that store, I feel hurried. I feel a sense of urgency. I want in and I want out. And there's nothing wrong with having that feeling. I'm going to give myself full permission to have that emotional state. However, if I'm attached to that emotional state and I'm in a line that is a dozen people long, that emotional mind state is not going to serve me well. And so I have to cultivate another emotional state, which is ease and peace. So, as much as I feel hurried, I sister that hurried feeling with a reminder to stay calm, stay clear, stay in acceptance for what is. It's going to be okay. How's your mood? What's your emotional state? When I'm in this store, I work with the third foundation of mindfulness, which is my mind and all of my thoughts. And I've been thinking recently, I've been reflecting on this a lot. And I often hear meditations where there's a lot of encouragement not to judge. And I don't know about any of you, but the minute I catch myself judging, whether it's positive or negative, I immediately hear this voice that is a little bit scolding, like, oh, Julia, there you go again, judging. And then I feel bad about myself. And I'm really over that. Oh my God, I'm so over it. So, what I do when I'm working with the third foundation, working with the mind, is when judgment is arising. And again, my judgments are often positive. I don't want to tell myself not to judge. It doesn't serve me. What serves me is a curious question. Huh, would you look at that? Julia, what's that judgment all about? Where's that coming from? And the minute I ask, where is that coming from? The judgment, the angle on that judgment shifts away from the person or the thing or the situation that I'm judging and turns itself back toward me, toward the birthplace of that judgment. That lives in me. Where does it come from? Is it an old story? Is it a piece of my history? Is it a legacy of my ancestors? And then it becomes less about the person or the situation and becomes much more interesting about me. What am I working with? Why is this arising? And again, it's that condition. So when I'm in a place like Costco, judgments are flying all over the place. And I work with my mind by simply asking, wow, would you look at this? Look at all this. What do you think about this, Julia? How is this serving you? How is this serving others? How is this dictating your presence? Fourth foundation. This is something called mental formations or perceptions. I like to use the word stories. I'm a great storyteller. And it's amazing how when I encounter somebody, say somebody is just asleep to their lives, they're not paying attention, they run over my foot, whatever it is, quick judgment will arise and then a story will follow. And it's almost involuntary, for me anyway. And if I'm not paying attention, I'll go with that completely fabricated story and I'll allow it to dictate my presence, my mood, my attitude toward this individual. And it's really based on nothing. So once again, I ask myself, wow, what's this all about? Is this even true? What else is true? That's one of my favorite instruments of peace to work with when I'm working with my mental formations, because there's this habit energy of when I'm in the middle of telling a story or fabricating something, I have a tendency to want to deny it, like, no, that's not true. And it might be. And so to be able to say, well, that's true, not the whole truth. So what else is true? What else is going on here? And then that helps me broaden the scope, broaden the perspective. This person probably ran over my foot. sound asleep to their lives. They've got two kids in the cart. Maybe this mother is sleep deprived. Maybe she's got a child who's been ill. I've been in those shoes. I've probably run over shoes. So this person is now just like me, and my presence softens. And all of this is about taking ownership of what's happening within me. And that is the invitation to self regulate, to know that this is all going on within me and it affects how I'm interacting and interfacing with life. But I have agency. I can understand my thoughts and my body and my tensions and my mood well enough that my presence becomes steady, refined, at ease, approachable, maybe a breath of fresh air. You can practice the four foundations of mindfulness all together. You can practice them one at a time. Just know that they are with you, a companion readily available, full of insight into your whole being. May you use the four foundations as a way of understanding yourself so that your presence truly brings to the world peace. Let's take a deep breath together, friends, maybe a couple of deep breaths, and we'll come back and share. Breathing in, breathing out. I'd like to invite the chime to sing. And I'd like you to just find a posture in your body that allows for a moment reflection. We began our practice today by reviewing the Four Noble Truths. And I've simplified them for myself because I wanted to make them a little less religious, I think. And I wanted to use language that I could apply to my everyday. So, my everyday isn't defined by suffering. My everyday, however, is often punctuated by moments of discomfort. And not just physical discomfort, but emotional discomfort, spiritual discomfort. I'm agitated. I'm annoyed. I don't know what I am. And when I've reflected on, oh, there are reasons for this, and those reasons, those conditions live externally to me by way of other people and their behavior, by situations, by things that are way out of my control, by things that are in my control. But there are also conditions that live in me. I have been conditioned by my family, my ancestors, society. And so I'm not always a victim of the whims external to me. I have agency. So if I can look at those conditions, I can feel empowered to know what I can change and what I can't. And when I get to that place of understanding that with clarity and depth and texture, I begin to feel and I begin to experience a little bit of harmony. And I'm reminded over and over and over again that it is a practice. Again and again on a spiral, we go round and round. But each time that I encounter the same lesson, it's slightly different. I've learned something. I have more insight. I have more presence to bring. And I suppose the thing that I'd like to end with is a reminder to look around. Look at how many people aren't even contemplating these things, aren't even contemplating their reactivity as an opportunity to practice something new. For so many people, reactivity is just normal. It's just a way of being. I'm going to yell. I'm going to scream. I'm going to exercise road rage and be unsafe to myself and others, and I'm not going to care. I'm going to go to the bars. I'm going to drink to oblivion and not care. So, to come into these practices, to come into this awareness, is an extraordinary expression of care toward oneself and by extension toward the whole wide world. I dedicate this practice to all living beings who don't have access to it. May your practice here today find these people in all your encounters, whether you go to the store or in your own family and friend groups, and the people who challenge you and the people with whom you find ease. May your practice carry in your presence, and may your presence be peace we so desperately need. Thank you so much for your practice today, friends. We'll see you next time. Namaste.